Bats continued to completely dominate ball on a mostly dead pitch in Bristol, where Ned Eckersley and Niall O'Brien added to the run fest with hundreds, as Leicestershire easily avoided the follow-on on the penultimate day of the LV County Championship match with Gloucestershire. Numerous records have been broken on the first couple of days at Neville Road, and we also had witnessed a hat-trick from Atif Sheikh, an extraordinary feat given that the visitors began the penultimate morning of this match on 246 for 2 in reply to their hosts' mammoth 646. In spite of an excellent start to their reply from Greg Smith and Angus Robson, Leicestershire still needed 251 more runs to avoid the follow-on as the day got underway, with Dan Redfern and Eckersley the latest to try to fill their boots on the kind of pitch batsmen don't see too often in their careers. Redfern did most of the scoring in the first hour and was at his fourth 50 in his first season with Leicestershire from 90 deliveries. He struck 7 fours in that and must have now been dreaming of a big score, having got himself in after starting the morning on 17. The former Derbyshire player's problem this year, though, is that he's been unable to go on after getting this far, and on 60 he got a pull off Liam Norwell horribly wrong, the bowler taking an athletic catch to complete the dismissal. Redfern had to drag himself off and then watch Eckersley reach his own very patient half-century, which arrived courtesy of his fifth four from his 123rd delivery. He then lost Josh Cobb for 16 when the Leicestershire captain flashed a drive off Craig Miles to Will Tavares, with the visitors left on 349 for 4. They were still 307 runs behind and needed a further 158 to avoid the follow-on, so at this stage we still had some form of a game on, but not for much longer. Niall O'Brien saw to that. He was soon in and hitting fours for fun. The only thing he was unable to do was fail to earn his side maximum batting bonus points, as Leicestershire made 387 for 4 from their 110 overs, mostly because Eckersley, who's not been able to repeat the successes he achieved last summer, was hardly playing a shot in anger for a while at the other end. He then did pick up the pace of his innings with some boundaries, knowing perhaps that this was just the place where, having batted with such patience for so long, that 4 balls could no longer be missed out on. He was into the 90s by the time that O'Brien went to his 7th 50 of the season. The Irishman has been a consistent performer in a struggling team and was at his latest half-century off 65 balls, that pull bringing him his 6th 4. With Eckersley then waiting for a ball he could get to 3 figures off, O'Brien swept Tom Smith for a 6 and he hit a few more boundaries as he raced into the 70s. For a while it was a one-man show. But then at last the 25-year-old Eckersley, aided by a misfield, did get to his ton, one that in the end had occupied 215 deliveries from which only 8 fours had been struck. The only thing that mattered to the batsman, though, was that he had got to 3 figures, the 4th man in this match to do so. 2 of the others had gone on for some while yet, too. O'Brien decided to take a different approach to reach his second 100 of the campaign. He began an over from David Payne on 83, and after hitting the first ball of it for 4, he pulled the next one for 6. A dot ball followed, and then another big blow from the left-hander had him speedily onto 99. The next ball he lifted a perfectly good delivery over mid-wicket for another maximum before quickly raising his bat. He'd gone from 50 to 105 in 35 balls, bringing up his ton off 100, from which he'd now hit 11 fours and 4 sixes, and he now wanted to carry on in the same vein. He moved ahead of Eckersley before lifting Miles over the rope yet again. It looked as if we were about to be treated to something rather special. But next ball, O'Brien, now on 119 from just 107 balls, tried to repeat the shot but sliced to Ian Cobain, ending a partnership of 180 made in 34 overs, one which had of course comfortably avoided that follow-on. O'Brien was on his way for 529 for 5, which became 547 for 6, when Smith spun one through the gate to bowl Rob Taylor for 11. Then in the spinners next over, Eckersley's long vigil was ended on 119 when he drove back to the bowler, who held on well on the dive. Eckersley was on his way after 5.5 hours of batting. As with Gloucestershire's innings, there was from nowhere a flurry of wickets. Ollie Freckingham pulled Norwell out to Smith, and now Leicestershire were on 549 for 8. Rather oddly, they lost their last 6 wickets for only 36 runs. Charlie Shrek was brilliantly held off his own bowling by Smith, who was now right in the thick of things. Indeed, he had a hand in all of the last 5 wickets to fall in a 10-over period, as he also held on to a catch to get shot of Jigger Naik, who was out with a hit off Norwell. Leicestershire were all out for 565, and that gave their hosts a lead of 81. Just 8 had been added to that when Chris Dent edged a swish off Freckingham behind. All of a sudden, wickets were tumbling quickly, but Gareth Roderick and Tavares saw out the final 8 overs in taking the total to 23. With neither side having much to play for on the last day, it would be nice to see a game set up somehow. Gloucestershire will begin it with a lead of 104 runs, although setting any kind of target may be too difficult on here. Perhaps there may be some fireworks first thing though.